your friendship, which is one that I cherish. With that, please join me in welcoming the 42nd President of the United States, William Jefferson Clinton.
First of all, the only person I can see in this glare is Tom McMillan out there, because he's 7 feet tall and he wants to play basketball. I want to thank you for the work you have done to raise money for this campaign. And I don't have much to add to what I said tonight. I hope it helped. I will say this. One of the things that bothers me about modern politics is that we're bathed in information, but nobody organizes it in a usable fashion for us. Don't you find that? I mean, an 8-year-old kid can get on the internet and find out something in 30 seconds. I had to go to college to learn. That's the good news. Bad news is you don't know if it's true or not. You don't know what it means. And so that's what I tried to do tonight. And what I wanted to say to you is, I believe it is very important that people first have an answer to the attacks that have been made on the president, which are totally false, on Medicare and welfare reform. Because there's a reason they kept repeating them, even though they know they're not so, and that is that it works. And second thing I want to say is, I want you to know that I believe every word I said tonight, and that I know one of the things that I said that I believe is critical to our success over the long run is that none of the president's predecessors, including me, could have healed so much damage in 4 years. We didn't even stop losing jobs till the 1st of January 2010. Nobody could have done that. And he could never say that because it would look like he was being defensive. It would look like he is making excuses. So I hope that people know, because I have a reasonably good record on the jobs front, that I believe that. And I want you to help. The third thing I want to say is this. I was just told that the campaign had a good August raising money, and that's a good thing. But because of all these super PACs, you know, I was afraid that we were going to get outspent from here on in somewhere between 2.5 and 3 to 1. The president can win being outspent, because he'll give a good speech tomorrow night, lay out what he wants to do if he re-ups, if we renew his contract. And then I think he'll do great in the debates. I also think that the ideological predilection of the Republicans to say they're for tax cuts and say, see me later about how I pay for them, has gotten them in trouble. I bet you they probably never thought about what I said tonight. We're going to say we're restoring Medicare cuts, which weren't cuts to beneficiaries, they were cuts to providers. And if you give them back, you do cut to beneficiaries, you run the drug cost up, and you make Medicare go broke 8 years earlier, and that's 4 years from now. So you won't have to wait to see them in Medicare as you know it. Most people have no idea. Most people have no idea that Medicaid spends 2/3 of its money on nursing home care for lower income Medicare patients. So if you block granted and cut 25% of it, you are hurting people on Medicare, the most vulnerable seniors in this society. I don't know what they're going to do. And the thing I'm most worried about is all these working poor folks and poor people and middle class people who have special needs kids. They got epilepsy, they got They got Down syndrome. They have this whole range of autistic conditions. And it costs a lot of money to give those kids good, decent, dignified care. But an enormous number of them can have meaningful and wonderful lives and can bring joy to the people who love them. But their parents, even if they make $100,000 a year, even if they make $150,000 a year, they can't begin to support their other kids and take care of a lot of these special needs kids. It is not possible. I don't know what they're going to do. I'm not sure these people ever even think of the consequences. But if you say, okay, I'm going to match Barack Obama and I'm going to cut the debt $4 trillion over the next decade, but because I'm a Republican and these guys, our friends, controls the party, I got to start with a $5 trillion tax cut. That means you got to cut $9 trillion to kill a $4 trillion problem. I mean, who would ever do that, right? And so I really don't, I try not to talk about them bad tonight. I don't think they're bad people. But if you believe in that politics should be driven by ideology, and you got all the answers on the front end, and you're impervious to evidence, you're going to get in trouble. You're going to get in trouble. If we ran the space program that way, Neil Armstrong never would have walked on the moon. If we had run the space program that way, we wouldn't have that little machine up on Mars. We don't run anything that way. And if the Alabama football team was coached that way, they would not have won the national championship, and all of you that don't root for it would never have to worry for them again. Right? You wouldn't have to give them a second thought. They wouldn't win 3 games a season. Only in politics do you get to run an evidence-free campaign. Every time you give money to this campaign, every time you raise money for this campaign, every time you lower the difference between what they spend on the campaign and the super PACs and what we can raise, every time you do that, you close the gap between illusion and reality. All we have to do is just say what the president's done, answer the charges, and say what he's going to do. This is not a complicated deal. The voters want to pick the person that will bring us back the quickest, that will deal with the long-term debt problem, and they know they got to create jobs first. But you can't get a balanced budget without both arithmetic and economic growth. If you don't have economic growth, you're not ever going to do it. So we need to grow this economy. And they want to know what we're going to do in the next 4 years. That's all we got to do. As long as the president doesn't just get buried in a barrage of ads like this welfare deal, which is totally off the wall. So we got to keep him in the game because it's keeping us in the game, our country. It's about our country now. Yeah. And I want to just say one other thing. I just kind of brushed by it at the end. But look, I'm a Southerner. I remember how black Southerners were manipulated by the poll tax. That's how old I am. I remember how some people who didn't think they could afford even $1 would get so discouraged they just quit voting. And it lingered even after the poll tax was struck down. The first time I made a campaign, several years after there was none, an elderly lady told Hillary when she was knocking on doors, honey, I'd like to vote for your husband, but I don't have a poll tax. I remember how the poll tax was used in 2 ways. First of all, as an excuse to keep African Americans away from the polls, and then in planter country. I've seen it with my own eyes. This is why I'm so mad about these voting restrictions. And when I talk to them, I saw when I was a boy, people with wads, rolls of poll tax. And they'd pull up to one of these farms and they'd load all the farm workers on the back of a flatbed truck. And they'd roll down to the voting place. And then they'd unroll the roll and they'd write people's names in and they'd give it to them right before they went in. And then everybody go vote and come back. They'd get up on the truck, and before the truck had by the way, the guy with the roll would go into the polling place and make darn sure they voted just the way they were told to vote or they wouldn't keep their job. I don't like it when people can't cast a free, secret vote on equal time. And don't you be fooled. What they did in Pennsylvania, what they did in Ohio, and what they did in Florida has the potential of suppressing enough votes to put states in doubt that he would otherwise clearly win. So this is not complicated. They won in 2010 because people were mad about the way the things they were, and the voters didn't pay any attention to the specifics, which is why I spent so much time on them tonight. They just kind of liked the rhetoric, and they thought, what the heck, I'll give them Republicans a chance, maybe they'll all work together and something good will happen. That's about what it amounted to. They had no idea that they were going off the reservation, and that's why I feel bad for the Congress, the Tea Party Congress, because they're down to 10% approval, and all they've done is what they told us they were going to do. They're in trouble because they're bewildered. They thought, like, all these votes, surely I'm supposed to do what I told them I was going to do. And they don't know that there's not a connection. That's why we have to make sure that we tell people we believe that our opponents are honorable people. We believed it when they said they love their families. We believed it when they said they cared for their kids. We believed it when they said they loved their roots. And we trust them to keep their word and do exactly what they promised to do. So here it is. If you want it, you can have it. Now, all that requires sufficient funds that we don't get outspent 2.5 for 3 to 1. We don't have to say bad things about them. And we shouldn't. We just need to shell down the corn in a clear way where we tell people what happened. How many times did I say tonight, here's what really happened? That's all people really want to know. Here's what really happened, and what are you going to do? So I thank you for what you've done. The president, his national security team, his economic team, his domestic policy team, under miserable, difficult, challenging circumstances of blinding complexity at home and around the world, have made us safer and have laid the foundation for a broad-based shared prosperity. And they deserve the chance to finish the job. You've got to give it to them. And you can't let somebody take it away from them just because of all these committees. So I thank you for being here. I thank you for the money you've raised. I thank you for the money you've given. But go home and tell people if they like this convention and they want to see more of that kind of information, more of that kind of argument, more of that kind of hope, they ought to invest in it. It's worth an investment. God bless you, and thank you very much. Thank you.
We can have some lemonade. Big old tree. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. It's not your fault.
Well, I'm kind of part of the problem, actually, right here.
Not intentionally.
Yeah. There you go. Come on in.
I'm going into the eye of the tiger here.
Go for it.
It's hot. Oh.
You can go into a room and hit this fucking guts. Come out 5 minutes later. I love it. The worst of it is what we want.
They ain't got to worry about shit. Everybody in here got it right. Yeah, no shit. We know that. Hell yeah. Well, well, he's too little to do anything anyway.